Hey, we're going to the White House on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Joining us now, Adam Kennedy. Adam, the Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy Director of Communications in the Mercedes Schlapp Empire in the West Wing. Adam, great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me on, John.
All right, so Adam, already Ann Coulter going ballistic about this compromise the president's going to sign, that we're advocating he signs because I think government shutdowns are stupid. We always lose. And look, they said we're not going to give him anything. He got something. I think you go from there. But Ann Coulter and her ilk going crazy. In fact, she puts up on her website, I'm too angry to type about what's gone on. So the salvos are going to start to fire. But look, Adam, honestly, we have a divided government. The government was shut down for 35 days. Bad idea. The president did get something. I think he's inclined to sign it and move forward. What say you?
Well, as the president said yesterday, he doesn't want a shutdown, but he's going to actually read the text of the legislation to find out what's in it. I know a lot of people in D.C. want to pass legislation to find out what's in it. The president's going to read it before he signs it. He's going to make a determination based on the actual text, based what's in the legislation. And I think he is inclined to sign something to keep the government open, but he's not just going to completely sign anything put in front of him. If there's certain things in there that prevent him from securing our border and protecting our communities, I think that's going to give some pause.
Adam, now, there's also speculation that the president, upon signing it, is also going to implement a series of executive orders that would transfer money from Pot A to Pot B being to continue construction of barriers in the wall. Do you see that as something that he might do?
Well, I think the president has said since December how much money he wants for a barrier or wall on the border, and that's around $5 billion. If Congress isn't able to provide that for him, I think he is going to look at other options.
And so what would some of those options be? Like, walk us through, Adam, how the president, through a series of executive orders, could actually reallocate money for that.
Well, the president has a wide range of options. I'm not going to get ahead of any decision that might be made or kind of lay out any tick-tock about what the president might decide to do. But there are a series of different kind of pools of funding that the president can draw upon and use to help fund this border wall. I think he'd prefer to work with Congress and get Congress to fund it, but if they're unwilling to do that, there are other options.
Well, they are unwilling because they only gave him $1.357 million, so we've already decided on that. Now we have to move forward. Adam, what do you say to part of the Trump coalition that when he signs this thing is going to go off the rails, led by Ann Coulter and others? How do you respond to them?
I think we should remember where we started in all this, which is Democrats didn't want to give a single dollar. Democrats didn't want a single mile. The president is making significant progress. As he said in El Paso, construction of the wall has already begun. It's going to continue this year. We're getting even more funding. And remember, this funding bill only goes to September, at which point we'll have another round of negotiations to get even more funding for a wall. So the idea that this is the end-all, be-all is, I think, mistaken. This is a continuation of an ongoing process that started because this president was elected. Without that election, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. And I think the president is looking to fulfill his promise to the American people that he laid out on the campaign and has reiterated ever since being sworn in. And if you know the president or if you met the president, you know he follows through.
Let's talk about other ways that you see the president working with Democrats in Congress. What are some of the other things that you see coming up, let's say, Adam, in the next several months, where you think the president and the Democrats might be able to move forward on legislation in a bipartisan way?
Oh, absolutely. I think during the State of the Union, the president laid out a series of issues from infrastructure to drug pricing to combating HIV and childhood cancer that aren't really partisan issues. You know, who is against eradicating childhood cancer? Who is against lowering drug prices? I think similar to what we saw at the end of last year, where the president was able to build a bipartisan coalition to pass the First Step Act, I think there's lots of opportunities this year and going into the next year to build bipartisan coalitions to pass what are really quality of life improvements for everyday Americans.
Adam, what's the plan for an infrastructure bill? The last time this was formulated, I was there at Trump Tower. The president was supposed to roll it out. And God, I can't even remember when this was. I think it was in 2017. And he went to Trump Tower for the rollout. That was the couple days after the Charlottesville debacle happened. And that person was murdered in Charlottesville, Virginia by UVA. And it got off the rails and he never really got there. And then we never really heard from it again. And I also remember getting on some of the conference calls. It was probably one of the most complicated things they had rolled out, because I remember it was very tough to boil it down on the air of how it was going to work. What are the plans for that now?
So last year, I think the president tried to work with Republicans to pass something. I think this year we're going to try and work across the aisle with both Democrats and Republicans. Mm-hmm. In terms of what the details of that's going to be, I think it's going to kind of depend on what the Democrats are willing to do, if they're actually willing to work with the president. If they're not willing to work with the president, then of course that's going to change the very nature of what the infrastructure legislation is going to be. But the president's dedicated to this. He's seen our failing infrastructure across this country, from our dilapidated airports to our falling bridges, and it's something he's passionate about. You know, he's a builder and he wants to rebuild our infrastructure.
Do you guys have a timeline?
He laid it on the State of the Union that this is going to be one of the top priorities of this year.
All right, excellent. Adam, just this week, Chairman of the House Intel Senate Committee, Senator Burr, came out with a statement that said 2 years of investigations, 300,000 pages of documents, 200 witnesses, and we have absolutely no evidence towards collusion whatsoever. Yeah, we got some other minor stuff that's going on, but no collusion, 2 years. This thing's got to end and wrap up. Then Senator from Virginia ranking member Mark Warner comes on and says, well, I'm not going to comment because the investigation is not done. We need another 300,000 more pages of documents and another 200 witnesses, and then I'll make a decision, which basically what he was saying is, I got crap right now. Otherwise, he just said, I have something. When does this wrap up, man?
It's a very odd situation in that the person who is being really vilified, the president, has been completely cooperative, has given over people for testimony, has given over documents to help wrap this situation up, and it seems all the Democrats want is for this investigation to continue without end. As we've seen time and time again, whenever anything official actually comes out on the investigation, it seems to clear what the president's been saying since the very beginning. There's no collusion, there's no wrongdoing on his part. Yet time and time again, Democrats say, well, we need a little bit more time, or we need this, or we need that. I mean, we're over 2 years into this. When are they going to have enough?
I don't think they're ever going to have enough until maybe 2020. But, I mean, this week, I mean, the mainstream media, the legacy media who lies to you every day, the fake newsers, they really wouldn't give this any coverage. But the fact that the Senate Intel chairman, I tell you what, Senator Burr is known as a very level-headed guy, not a bomb thrower, not a partisan. Very level-headed guy. Most of the things that Burr Warner did on the Senate committee, Mark Warner, senator from Virginia, ranking member, were done in unison. This is really the first time they broke. And I kind of got the feeling that the chairman just had enough of this whole thing. He's nothing. He said, we have nothing after 200 interviews. And then Warner, see, if he had something, Adam, he would have said it.
Be all over the place.
He would have said, wait a minute, I don't agree with the chairman. I've got evidence that leads me to believe otherwise. No, he didn't say that. He says, I'm just going to reserve judgment till the end. When's the end? I don't know, never. I mean, that's basically what Warner said. It's almost a laughable statement that he said. They have nothing.
It's a situation where it seems the Democrats just don't want this to end because they see scoring political points as a better deal than actually finishing an investigation and getting to the bottom of it. I mean, I don't know what sort of investigation just continues without end, without any boundaries or without any barriers. I mean, it seems the Democrats just want to say, well, okay, we didn't find what we were looking for in this pile of documents. Give us this other pile of documents that has nothing to do with anything, and let's see if we can find something in there. I mean, at some point, we have to actually start getting back to helping the American people, which is what Republicans and the president has been focused on, and stop these what are really just demonizing and vilifying investigations on the part of the Democrats. I just don't understand what they want to get out of it.
You know, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. Wrap it up. And former White House counselor Dowd said the other day in an interview, I think it was an NBC podcast or CBS podcast interview, and he said, let's just wrap it up. Let's just get it done. And let's get the report written. And he said, I don't think Robert Mueller is even going to write a report because he has nothing to write other than ancillary pleas that he was able to extract out of people that were directly because of the investigation itself, lying to the FBI, lying to investigators, lying to Congress, et cetera. These are all felonies. You can't do that. I mean, you just absolutely can't do that. But the bottom line is here, wrap it up. And if you've got a report, I mean, I think it should be written, submitted, and made public. And whatever in it, I'll live with that. And I think the president would be inclined to do that also. Whatever's in there, let's get it out. But let's get this thing done. I mean, 2 years of perpetual investigations. Now Nadler is saying, we want to subpoena the president's tax returns. What on earth does that have to do with anything? How does that relate back to this investigation?
All it has to do with is scoring political points. And at the end of the day, that's what this whole thing has been about. The president's been cooperative. The president has been willing to work with any investigation and continues to be willing to work with any investigation. But again, investigations have an end. Investigations conclude. Findings are released. Findings are given over. So far, it seems the Democrats don't want any of that last part. All they want is the investigation.
Well, all they want is, getting the president's tax returns, and there's a couple of obscure ways that they can actually legitimately get those. That is just a major fishing expedition. If there was a specific reason they wanted it, I might be more open to it. But it's just like, let's now pour through that. Let's hire a bunch of lawyers, tax lawyers. Let's look at that. Let's find an I that didn't get dotted, a T that didn't get crossed, so we can nail them on that. Right? That's all this is about.
It almost seems like we didn't find anything over here in this investigation. Let's start a new investigation and see if we find something over there, which they won't.
No, they're not going to have anything because, Adam, nothing exists. This has been the biggest hoax put on the American people ever. And all this money being spent by Mueller, he's come up with nothing, Adam, because he has nothing. And so that's the bottom line. And I think the president's former lawyers spelled it out in that interview he did with CBS the other day. And now, the legacy media doesn't know what to do with it because it was look, it's not like this interview came on the John Fredericks Radio Network or on Breitbart, right? Or the Daily Caller. This was on CBS. This was their podcast, right? Their interview. And now they don't know what to do with it. They don't want to publish it. They don't want to push it out. They don't want anybody else to pick it up because it puts a hole in everything they said. And he said, look, as a president's lawyer, I had access to every single document he had. Every document or witness that Robert Mueller has, everything that he has as a president's lawyer, I had. That's the way the U.S. justice system works. So he can't hide anything from me. So I saw it all. And everything I saw, he's got nothing. So that's why he said there's not even going to be a report because there's nothing for Robert Mueller to put in it. He's simply going to end the investigation. This is incredible, man.
Well, when you saw MSNBC reporting on their own reporting about the Senate Intelligence Committee essentially confirming what the president's been saying all along, it was almost like they were regretting that they had to report on what their own reporters found. It's a bizarre situation where a news organization almost doesn't want to talk about what they found.
Well, because they're fake news, and so they have reporters that simply can't make stuff up. They have to say what was said because everybody will call them on it. And then the anchors don't want to really talk about it because they can't do their fake news and they can't really hide it. And so they get twisted into a pretzel and it becomes a clown show. I mean, what you had, Adam Kennedy, what you just brought up on MSNBC was, right out of Bozo the Clown. I mean, it was a ridiculous on display of unprofessional journalism, of fake newsers and anti-Trumpers trying to find a way to spin this back into their false narrative, and they couldn't do it. And watching them try to do it was a complete comedy show. Adam, thanks for being with us. I'm out of time. I want to thank Adam Kennedy for being with us, Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy Director of Communications. Adam, thanks for your time.
Thanks so much, John. I really appreciate it.